Have you ever hit a moment in life where everything seemed to fall apart? Your career stalled, your relationships ended, your self worth was shaken? What if I told you that the key to rising from that rock bottom moment isn't more ambition, but radical self care, relentless self compassion, and a willingness to just start again? Hey, everybody, I'm Steven Schauer, and welcome to Stories Sustain Us, where we explore the lives and lessons of those working to make the world a better place, one story at a time. In today's episode, you're going to meet someone whose journey will leave you inspired, energized, and maybe even rethinking the way you approach your own life. Meredith Patterson is a force of nature. She's a Broadway star, a storyteller, and a fierce advocate for mental health and personal transformation. Together, we talk about the gritty reality of making it in show business, the emotional toil of rejection and bankruptcy, and the healing power of therapy, gratitude, and compassion. Meredith doesn't hold anything back. From the tap shoes she wore as a 2-year-old to the bankruptcy judge who questioned her value. She also shares how visualization led her to the love of her life and how choosing self-compassion transformed her from the inside out. We also dive into the practices that helped her rewire her brain, from Louise Hay's Love Yourself cards to daily mindfulness rituals, and how these tools helped her shift from burnout to breakthrough. Before we dive in, let me tell you a little bit more about today's guest. Meredith Patterson is a Broadway actress, singer, dancer, writer, producer, holistic and mindset coach, and a keynote speaker whose career spans Broadway, television, film, and beyond. Recognized as a true triple threat performer, she has been praised by critics as exquisite, possessing a lit from within radiance as a dancer and a rich, glowing voice that captivates audiences. Whether starring on Broadway, appearing on network television, recording jazz music, writing her memoirs, or hosting her own podcast, Meredith's journey is one of resilience, reinvention, and unwavering passion for storytelling. I had the absolute joy of being a guest on her podcast a few months ago, and I'm thrilled to have Meredith on my show today. So if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to start over, questioned whether you're enough just as you are, or you're currently experiencing climate anxiety and burnout from political turmoil, this episode is for you, because good mental health and self-care is something we can all benefit from. Let's dive in with Meredith Patterson here on Stories Sustain Us, where we are inspiring action through the power of storytelling. Meredith, welcome to Stories Sustain Us. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm just so happy to talk to you again.
It is great to see you again. I
Yeah.
just did the introduction and let everybody know that I was your guest. I guess back on May 30th, I was on your show, and we're here in August now. And recording in July, but airing this in August. So it's just fantastic to see you again. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy summer schedule to spend a little time with me and my audience as well. So it's great to see you.
We had such a great conversation when you were on my show. And we just have like such a synergy in terms of like a lot of our thoughts on life and all that stuff. So, it's good to be back talking.
Absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to this one as well. So let's jump into it then. And the format here, we're gonna get to know you. What's your story before we start talking about some of the work that you're doing these days? But tell me and tell the audience a little bit about Meredith Patterson. Where did she grow up, and what was life like for her as she grew up?
Oh gosh, it's so funny to hear my name, Meredith Patterson, because that's my name in the business. I grew up as Mary, which is the name of my now production company, Mary Productions. But Mary, when anyone calls me Mary, that's literally it takes me back to Pleasant Hill, California, which is where I was born. And raised, and in the same house. My dad's still there in the East Bay, a beautiful, beautiful part of the country, and a really, really sweet place to grow up. When I grew up, it kind of boomed a little bit from the .com boom. The area got really busy. A lot of people moved there. So it's a little different than what it was when I grew up there, but a beautiful place to live and grow up. And I had a house of a lot of music and dancing. My mom wanted to be a dancer and loved movie musicals. My dad was a kind of a jazz prodigy on the drums. So he would be playing Oscar Peterson while my mom would be playing Singing in the Rain, the MGM musical.
Yeah.
So I grew up very eclectic styles in my house. And, my brothers and sisters, they all, like most of them, are musical. My sister Lainey would say she just didn't get that gene. She's the only one that doesn't really do anything musical, but my brother and sister are drummers, and I tap dance. So I kind of grew up in the dance studio, and we all just always went to shows and watched movies and just played a lot of music. So it was very natural for me to want to do that with my life. But I knew at a very early age that I wanted to dance and sing and act.
Yeah.
How could I jump into television and do what they're doing?
Yeah.
And so I
What was your
slowly
favorite musical? I'm just
Oh
curious.
gosh.
Yeah. Which one resonates the most from your childhood memory of maybe
I
watching
think
with your
it's
mom?
Singing in
And
the Rain, which
is
is
it?
the one I
Yeah,
mentioned. And
that's
then
so
Gene
classic. Yeah.
Kelly was my first crush.
Yeah.
I
He was
just
so
looked at
amazing.
him. So amazing. I just looked
Yeah.
at him and was like, "Oh my gosh, how can I jump in the TV and dance with you?"
Yeah.
And so I started tap dancing when I was 2.5, that early. I was really just walking, and then I was in tap shoes.
Nice.
And if you know the musical chorus line, I was that kid who put on my sister's tap shoes and ran around the house. So my
Nice.
mom was like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do with this child. We have to get her into dance class. Well, it never really stopped from there. I did my first professional show when I was 13. I got paid, and it was like $300. But I remember being like, oh my gosh, I can get paid to do this. This is
Right.
amazing.
Right.
And so at 18, I decided I wanted to go to New York City. That's where all the greats came from in my
Yeah.
mind.
What a big leap at a young
And
age.
I know, and I just did it. I was ignorance on fire. I didn't really know what I was doing. I ran to New York, and I was, my mom's like, you can't just get off the bus with a suitcase. Um, you have to go to school. And so I went to school there at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, which was a short school, meaning like it wasn't a full college.
Yeah.
And then I graduated 5 days later, started working in theater, and just got to do 20 years of just beautiful theater on the East Coast, national tours, Broadway, all of it. And that moved into television and film recordings. I mean, I really just, in my 20s and 30s, really got to work with so many wonderful and amazing people.
Yeah.
And, now at 49 years old, still feel like I have more to do, which is crazy. I
Of
mean,
course.
hopefully I'll live to be 100, so I'm midlife. But yeah, I just love it. I still love it so much. And it's just the chapters have changed in terms of what I'm doing now, because I live in Montana. I have 2 kids, so that kind of changes your vibe or your
Sure.
ambition, if you will. But
Sure.
I still have a lot that I love to do and still do.
Yeah. Let me take you back to that move as an 18-year-old to New York, because I'm just trying to imagine that. We talked on your show about how my wife and I moved out here, just kind of took a leap of faith to move to Seattle.
Yeah.
But I did that as a grown man. That leap of faith, making that giant leap from the West Coast to to New York, where all your hopes and dreams of Broadway are going to start there. Tell me what that was like, because that just seems like
Well, it's
such an
sometimes
amazing
scary.
adventure.
It's sometimes scarier to do it as an older. I feel like when you're older, because you feel like you have, I don't know. It's like when you're young, you
Well,
just have this, I say ignorance on fire. I really wasn't sure what I was jumping into, but I
Sure.
graduated high school at 17. My mom made me wait 6 months until I was 18. She's like, you're not leaving this house till you're a legal adult.
Yeah.
Cause she's like, then
Sure.
you're on your own, or then you can go across the country. I
Sure.
was like, okay. But I was like, like a one of those dogs that loves to run,
Yeah.
and you're pulling the leash. That's kind of like how I was for those 6 months. Could not wait to get out of that small town
Yeah.
and go to New York City. And it wasn't like a movie. So a lot of times people who ask me want to be on Broadway and do that, they think, oh gosh, you got off the bus and you went to school and then you graduated and 5 days later you were working. And I was like, oh no, I really went through it. I had a hot plate on the ground. I didn't have any money. I was working in a small coffee shop while going to school, while on scholarship at Steps Dance Studio. I was working my butt off, and I
Sure.
was also really scared. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
I had all my stuff stolen. It took me 8 years to get
Oh
to
my
Broadway.
goodness.
It wasn't the job I did 5 days after graduating was in South Philly in the winter. It was not glamorous. I was playing a great role, but I was, we were working in the basement of the Bourse building in Philadelphia, if you know that space, with a company that after that show went bankrupt. I mean, not it was not glamorous. I didn't jump right into Broadway or jump right into anything. But I really had a focus of, okay, I'm paying my bills so a little bit, but I'm paying my dues.
Paying your dues. Yeah.
And I'm going to not stop.
Yeah.
I have my eye on the prize. I'm going to keep going no matter how hard it is. And there were many times that I could have just given up. I had my parents be like, this is too hard. Why don't you come home? And I had a lot of people I graduated with who did go home.
Yeah.
And they said to me years later, I couldn't cut it. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And you really have to have a lot of grit.
Yeah.
And deal with rejection and auditions and cattle calls, as they call them, which, think of cattle going into the field. You're just one of them and you're just working your butt off.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And that's what I was imagining is, and the word that you used is grit and determination, that I was like, wow, that is really amazing for an 18-year-old to have that type of focus and determination, that you're going to face these challenges. Because I didn't know the story, but I knew it wasn't an easy story, right?
No, it's not easy. It's not a Cinderella story.
Exactly. I mean, well, and even Cinderella's story is not an easy story,
not
right?
Easy.
I mean,
she was scrubbing the floor. I was scrubbing the floor at Steps Dance Studio. I was cleaning out garbage in the women's bathroom. I remember all of that when things get hard, or I'm, even when I'm in a beautiful situation like starring on Broadway or starring in a TV show opposite, Candace Bergen or Tom Selleck, which I got to do years later, there were moments that I sat there and I said, look at you. Look at where you came from. And now look at you.
You earned
These
it.
moments are the glamour side people see, but they don't see the scrubbing of the floors, eating top ramen, not knowing where your next, dollar's going to come from, and really having to just know that that's the life of an artist. It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to jump too soon into what you're doing now, but I want to revisit this because I see a thread from your younger years of that determination into the work that you're doing now, promoting self-care and just, I want to revisit that in a little bit, but I want to keep exploring some of these early years with you. So you shared some of the grit and the difficulty of it. What are some of those memories that you look back and really are fond of? And they may be the same memories, right? I mean, the scrubbing the floor is a fond memory, but is there like that first moment where you're like, oh, I'm making it, it's happening, is there something that you really can look back and feel just that little bit of awe and joy and wonder in yourself?
Oh, there's so many moments of joy and awe and feeling like I really was patting myself on the back or feeling like I had made it. Because in my industry, there's always another mountain to climb, if that's how you look at it. If you look at it as, oh, I'm starring on Broadway, but I don't have a Tony yet, or I'm starring in a movie, but I don't have an Oscar. If you have that perspective, which I do have a lot of people who I've come across in the business who I've had some candid conversations like that, where they celebrate it, but it's momentary, and then they move on quickly to the next goal.
Yeah.
And I try in my later seasoned years of life to not do that.
Yeah.
Because it can really become mentally not healthy to do that. So I do go back through a lot of moments, and I know that rejection is redirection. That's how I look at it, because
I love that.
If I constantly think about all the things I didn't get, because there's a lot of even really big shows that I auditioned for that I didn't get, but it brought me to something else.
Yeah.
So initially I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to Juilliard. And I met with them and they accepted me into the dance program. And I really sat there and said, I don't know that we couldn't really afford it.
Yeah.
I also didn't really want to go to school for 4 years. I was like that dog pulling on the leash.
Yeah.
I wanted to get out into the world.
To get into work. Yeah.
And I didn't love high school. So I didn't love the 4 years of high school. The thought of going another 4 years and being in my mind, 22 when I got out was too old. So I say that because I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh my God, you should have gone to Juilliard. What an amazing opportunity." But then I think of it in a positive way of, if I did go to Juilliard, I wouldn't have started a national tour when I was 20. I wouldn't have gotten a Barrymore nomination when I was 19. I wouldn't have met Ann Miller and worked with Stephen Sondheim when I was 21 years old,
Wow.
because I would have been in school
Yeah.
and those moments would have passed me. So I think of it that way, as me, turning down Juilliard redirected me to these relationships and these opportunities that were incredible. So I think about that like really early in my career. And if you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, maybe
Yeah.
you can see some of the posters that are early on, like 1997, 98. That's when I would have been in college. So that to me is how I look at life. And I've learned to look that way because of seeing other people's ferocious ambition
Yeah.
and never celebrating those moments.
Yeah.
Now, the hard moments of like me moving and I lost everything. I was, I was trusting of somebody and my stuff was stolen.
Ugh.
And then all I had was I had my dance shoes. I don't know why I kept those with me, but I didn't, I got most of my clothes were stolen, some journals, things like that.
Jeez.
And that was a really tough time.
Sure.
But I looked at it like, okay, that's just stuff. And I'm still here. I'm okay. Let's move forward. So that kind of brought me to like looking at minimalism and looking at like what really matters and going down deep into things like that. So that shift of my mindset really has been something that I've taken me 30 years or so to learn and remind myself on, like, literally daily. I still have to remind myself of gratitude and going to the
Yeah.
places of celebrating those great moments. But I have super squiggly line to get to the
Yeah.
success, and then I still have the ups and downs, the dips and the huge successes that really anybody has, that I feel like they should talk about more, which I love when they do,
Yeah.
because that's the reality.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to kind of dig into that part of your story, because I knew there was some difficulty there. There's no way that there isn't, and so much of what you just said has resonated with me. The two that really stand out is those in the industry that they might have a success, but they don't have a Tony yet. Like, always looking for that other mountain to climb, so to speak.
Yeah.
I equate that with something that I used to do, and I don't do any longer, but in my younger years had a very similar approach to life. Was this idea of I'll be happy when,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, there was so many things that I not in your industry, in your world, but in my life and the world that I was living in, so many successes and accomplishments that I did achieve because I was very motivated, I was very driven, but never took a moment to really enjoy that, because I had that mindset of, well, I got to go get the next thing. I'll be happy when I get that, and then you go achieve it, and you're not happy because there's always the next thing to go get. So that
Yeah.
means happiness is always eluding you. You're never enjoying life, and I lived that way for a long time, and thankfully I don't do that anymore. It's great for ambition. It's great for drive. There was benefits that came from that, but the emotional difficulty of that is something that I don't recommend for anyone.
I know. And
Because
I do feel like it is an American way. I feel
yeah,
like we're maybe societally, like, that's how we're taught to be, is always
yeah,
looking for the next thing, so that you're like, it's a consumerism kind of vibe, or achievements mean that your life means something. Money is your life means something. But some of the
right,
happiest people in the world have the most simple life
yeah,
and don't make very much money, and that's okay. And it's really where you put your value.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned, I think part of that then is this idea that you talked about every day, finding things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And just like in your show, we were like, oh, we're so connected. Like we just, there's so much that's similar. Like I do the same thing. I have actually a group of 10 friends, my wife and 9 other folks, that just about daily I send text messages to them of things that I'm grateful for. So I'm being
Yeah.
held accountable with other people, but also making sure that I take a moment every day, even if it's a hard day, I can find a long list of things to be grateful for. So that idea of finding time to be grateful for what you have, even if it's not what you want. I
On
think
my
it's such a
hardest
powerful
days,
thing.
yeah, it's a really powerful thing. And I think also who you surround yourself with in terms of like that gratitude or how people talk, their own mental health, you can feed into each other, in that way. And the most positive groups of people, you feed into each other. And I do have that same group of people in my life. But yes, what I do when I'm really, really having a tough day at finding something to be grateful for is I start, and I've done this for years, I start at the tip of my toes and go to the top of my head. And I think of all the things I have and all the things that just in my physical body
Sure, sure,
alone.
sure.
And then that will open myself up to, I'm mentally okay. I can take a deep breath.
Yeah,
I can eat food that's really good. I can, I have
yeah.
teeth. I don't know. It's like that
No,
sounds so
absolutely.
silly. But sometimes when you're in a rough place, it's hard to think of like, I have the ability to take a deep breath,
Yeah,
or I can walk. There's people in the world who can't. And so
right.
you go really to those basic things that help you remember what you have, and that also, that vibe turns into you getting more of that vibe.
Yeah,
That's that attraction and all those things that we
yeah,
talk about. I learned about Louise Hay, who I think is the kind of the beginner of the law of attraction, if you will, the
yeah.
secret, all those things. I have these cards that are they're kind of cheesy. If you were to come into my house and see, they're called Love Yourself. And
Yeah.
so it's very, but I love it. I laugh sometimes because I think of her, one of her sayings is, you know, somebody would say like, "Oh, let's kill two birds with one stone." And she'd go, "Why would you want to kill two birds?" Like, she really is very literal about what you say to yourself,
Yeah,
or what
yeah.
you say out loud is what you create. And these cards I look at least 5 or 10 cards every day. And
Nice.
it's an awesome way to start your day or end your day.
Yeah, and it's reprogramming your brain to look for
Yeah.
those gifts of the day. And I
Yeah,
love
big
the
time.
mindfulness of that exercise that starting at your toes and going to the top of your head. That's a mindfulness exercise as well as a gratitude exercise, and I think that's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, so let me jump back into then your career a little bit. You did this. It was 20 years. You said your 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
doing Broadway and television and movies. What was the transition and tell me a little bit about you know. I think you're still in that world, but you're also in a different world as well now. So
It's funny because I'm
yeah,
still in that world, but I moved away from New York in 2013.
yeah.
And that's when, I would say it was probably the lowest time of my life was
Oh wow.
2011,
Yeah.
2009 to 2011. I was going through a horrific divorce.
Mm,
Really knew that we never should have gotten married. We were just kind of on our own paths, but it was this kind of moment of life. I just finished doing White Christmas on Broadway, which was amazing. I was on a soap opera, which was also amazing. But I was approaching an age in the business where I was going to be 34, 35,
yeah.
where as a woman, sadly, you're looked at as, oh, you better, especially in the entertainment industry and in
Sure.
television. Well, you haven't made it. And let's use those quotes, air
Sure.
quotes. You
Sure.
haven't made it yet. So, you're starting to get old. And I say that because I had my manager and agent who were probably not a good manager and agent for me, but they were talking to me about, you better make it soon. And I was at an age where I really wanted to have a family. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
And I was going through a divorce, so that he finally said, I don't want to have kids with you. And it was like this huge, horrible
Mm,
collapse of everything.
sure.
So feeling like I hadn't made it in the business because I wasn't a star, being told that by my manager and agent,
Yeah.
and my marriage falling apart and really having no money. So I had put a lot of money. When you're in this business, you're told, invest in yourself, invest in yourself. Well, you are your business. So you
Yeah.
don't have like a business loan. or like a business, there's no business separate. It's you.
Right.
So I had put a lot of my trips to LA, my trips to pilot season, which I got really close to a lot of really amazing shows that would have changed my life.
Sure, sure.
I signed 12. If you're in the business and you're listening to this, I tested for 12 series regulars on TV, signed 12 contracts with all major networks. So really it was between me and like 2 other girls.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to swallow because you
Yeah.
watch them go on.
Yeah.
And one of those shows was Grey's Anatomy. So that's a big show.
Sure.
That I quote unquote didn't get.
Yeah.
I was up for the spinoff of Friends to be Joey's, neighbor or whatever in that show, if you've seen that show.
Yeah.
So there's like really big shows and really big roles that I didn't get. It was mentally really hard to deal with that because I knew that would have changed everything.
Yeah.
But I'm in this moment when I'm 34, 35, and my manager's going, yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe you don't have it. I don't know why you're not making it. I don't know why you're not getting these roles. And I'm starting to mentally pick myself apart, thinking I'm old, really feeling old at that age.
Yeah.
And then my marriage falling apart. My ex-husband saying, I don't want to have a kid with you. So also feeling not desirable, all these things. And then also going, you have all this debt. You may need to file bankruptcy because you're not going to be able to get out of this.
Yeah.
All of that happened in the span of 2 years.
Yeah.
It was the toughest thing I've ever experienced.
Sure.
Having that good tribe of women around me and friends and going, you are going to get out of this. And it was really, really mentally tough to get out of. But I did. And I really started that, especially that wellness practice. I really started digging even deeper into you are valuable. You may be 35 years old, but you still have a lot of life left.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at myself in the mirror going, you look old. You're starting to this and that. And what's funny is that now I look back at myself almost, 15 years ago. I'm like, you look great. You were like, in the prime of your life. What's wrong with, whatever.
Yeah, just how your perspective was skewed.
Yeah. Why were you listening to these people?
Yeah.
I call it my exfoliating period. I had to sloth off the dead skin cells, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah.
Sloth off a lot of things that weren't serving me, people that weren't serving me, people that were in my life that were not good for my mental state. And I filed for bankruptcy, filed for divorce, and really I actually did P90X, if you know what that is.
Yeah,
I was like punching the air, doing Kenpo and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Got into the best shape of my life and just started living for myself. And I will say it was a very angry kind of approach. I was pretty angry, but I was also pretty fearless. Like no one's going to do that to me ever again.
Yeah.
But I found in that moment when I exfoliated all that off that I really started like up leveling my friendships, the people I surrounded myself with.
Sure.
I didn't tolerate, I really started listening to my gut because that was the one thing that I avoided doing.
Yeah.
I would excuse away things before. I would go, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
That's a backhanded compliment, but I'm sure they're just, and then I go, okay. And I just know that that's not a person for me.
Establish better boundaries now. Yeah.
Establish better boundaries. I learned what boundaries were. I didn't even know that. I started going to therapy. I was like, I didn't even know any of this existed. I realized I was being surrounded by narcissists. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
But I'm your classic codependent. I will take care of you till the end of time. I'm the most loyal person. And those people will attract, they attracted themselves to me.
Sure.
But I learned a lot. And thank God my manager dropped me, my agent dropped me, and they were also not good for me either. And I started building my life again. And what's crazy is I started doing this manifestation visualization practices with my therapist.
Yeah.
And her name is Terry Cole. Has the Terry Cole Show. She has a really brilliant podcast, but she was my personal therapist in New York.
Yeah.
And she's incredible. And so if you listen to her show, a lot of the techniques that I do, like body scans, breathing techniques, the tapping solution, all of these things I took from her. She taught me how to have those moments and how to visualize. So I wrote a letter to myself of the kind of man I wanted to meet. And as I was writing it, I was going, this guy doesn't exist. It's not possible. I'm not going to find him. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to write it. I think this is not going to happen. but I wrote it as if he was already there. And it was, he's funny, he's handsome, but he doesn't know. It's not that he doesn't know that he is, but it's like that
Not
he's
arrogant
not
about it.
like, yeah, he's not like looking at himself in the
Right.
mirror every
Right.
morning.
Right.
Um, he is talented but humble. He wants to have a family. He's loving. He's going to be a great father. My best friend, all these things that I was like, that's not the kind of man I've ever knew or
Right.
dated or was married to. Within 6 months, I would read this letter to myself every day, twice a day, because I was really determined to be a mom. And you're a woman at 35, your clock is ticking.
There's time. Yeah. Yeah.
Within 6 months, I'm hired to do a show that was not a lot of money. I was the lead, but I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this show at the beach in, Beach Haven, New Jersey, to play Sandy in Greece, which, she's supposed to be in high school. I'm 35, so I'm like, I think I may be wrongly cast, but I'll do it. Whatever, it's fine. And the first day of rehearsal, I meet my now husband. I saw him from afar.
Yeah.
And I said, oh no more actors. I'm not going to be with an actor. But I immediately was drawn to him. And he, on his side of things, immediately said, there's my wife. That's my wife. And we were inseparable from week one. And then 4 months later, he's moving in with me and I'm pregnant with our first child. And we've been married 14 years. It's crazy when I think about because he's exactly that letter. I still have the letter. He's the letter that I wrote. He literally is that person.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
From the vulnerability of talking about the hardest time and the exfoliating and everything. Thank you for sharing that with the audience as well. It's not every day someone wants to share their deepest, darkest, hardest time of life. So I really appreciate your vulnerability and because we all go through it, but that power that you demonstrated by talking about the hardest part gives other people the freedom to do that too, because we need to talk about those hard things.
We do. We need to really express it because one of the things for me when I was sitting there with the bankruptcy judge, he looked at me and he said, oh, you're in debt. You're in a lot of debt. How many shoes did you buy? Oh, and I got so mad.
Come on. Yeah.
I was really shocked, actually. This was a New York judge. And I said, I didn't say what I would say now. At the time, I said, oh, no, I didn't go shopping, sir. I was investing in my career. So it's really, business bankruptcy, which a lot of people go through.
Yeah.
But I was really shocked at the, and I say that a lot to women because, because you're looked at as, oh, you must have gone shopping.
Yeah.
No, I went all the way. And that's one of the things about myself. I'll go all the way with something to the point of bankruptcy, maybe not very smart, but I will invest in myself and try everything before I maybe go, okay, let's shift for a second.
Yeah.
And the chapter I'm in now with being a parent, I didn't want to miss my child or my kid's childhood by doing 8 shows a week. So I really shifted and I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought, oh God, why can't I do it all? But I really said, I don't want to miss this because I know that they're really just babies for like just a small amount of time in the grand scheme of life.
Sure.
And then the pandemic hit. My kids were 5 and 8 when that happened. And it really shifted everything for so many people.
Yeah.
And in my mindset, I was like, okay, well, we got to figure out how to survive. Again, I was in survival mode. So our business was really, I feel like it's coming back, but it's still displaced a lot of actors, a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that can be, it's going back to that, put a positive spin on it. I could say, why am I in Montana when I was in Los Angeles and New York? And I put a spin on my kids love it here. We've been here 5 years. And this is my chapter of living in Montana and being a producer now. And so, and having a podcast and having, employing other artists that are up here who are incredibly talented, who some of them are also displaced from the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting chapter. And I feel like in my first my first two books that I wrote, and I say first two because I'm gonna write down a lot of my Hollywood experience, a lot of my experience going through divorce, bankruptcy, all of that shift
Yeah.
in a book someday. But I did write two books about my experience starring on Broadway during 9/11 and being in Moscow, Russia,
Yeah.
during the Chechen uh, Moscow theater siege.
Oh,
But
wow.
shifting, I know we could do a podcast for like 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I say that because I feel like those stories are so important to tell,
Yeah.
to see the dips and to see the chapters of
Yeah.
what life, may serve you and how you can shift with it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great transition into the work that you're doing now, and your amazing podcast, right? The Meredith Patterson Podcast. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Go listen to it. It is just I love what you're doing with that show. Talking about some of these things and getting vulnerable, sharing some of your stories, and but also your mental health Mondays and some of the ideas and concepts that you share about radical acceptance. I love that episode, and your own talk about blind spots and just really giving out some great information to the audience. So I really encourage everybody to go check it out and listen to it if you haven't already. Follow it, like it, support it, because I just think what you're doing is really incredibly important in this world that we're living in, and the connection I see to this show with what you're doing on your show. We talked a little bit about this, off air, but life's hard, right? life,
Yeah.
and the world that we're living in, there's a lot of worry and anxiety. Some folks might have climate anxiety because they're worried about, what's happening with regards to climate change. You get financial pressures in your life. There's obviously the political strife that we're in the midst of right now, of the polarization and the difficulty of, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, it seems like nobody's happy and everybody's worried and angry and scared.
Yeah. Which is a tough environment to be in. And,
Right.
It's tough to separate yourself from that as you can't be inundated 24/7 with all the things that are going on and the worry. And I encourage people to do that. And with my podcast, I really do. I love to talk about a lot of different things, which, having it be my name, the Meredith Patterson Podcast, I was, my producer, Hammond Chamberlain, that was his idea. And I kind of giggled at it because I said, who am I? In my head, I'm thinking, who's Meredith Patterson? Nobody knows who I am. But I say that because I had a podcast before, Confessions of an Actress, which I had for 5 years. It went through the pandemic, so it's a very interesting listen. If you want to listen to, we had 100 episodes. I did Wellness Wednesdays. But this podcast, I'm not just talking about the entertainment industry. I get to talk about a lot of different things and with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I go to things that I'm interested in or things that I feel are helpful in the environment that we're in now, body, mind, and spirit. And a lot of my curiosity as to how can we find a way through this. If I'm feeling this way, I must not be alone, or I must be one of millions who is feeling this way. So radical acceptance, that recent Mental Health Monday, that's when I'm going to revisit again, because it's something that's a tough one. That's a tough subject to kind of look at your life and have radical acceptance of the things that have happened or are happening.
Right.
But yeah, there's so many things I haven't really talked much about, than with you, the environment. And that's always been something that's I've been really passionate about from the time I was a kid, and don't understand why more people aren't. And I think, the other day I was walking here in Montana, the weather's beautiful. There's not any extreme weather going on right now. I know there's some extreme heat, there's flooding, there's been fires, there's been so much happening this year, just this year alone.
Yeah.
That make me sit there and go, I don't know why more people aren't up in arms about it and finding out anything they can do to change it. But that's something in my next season of my podcast I'm going to talk a little bit more about, because when this episode comes out, I'll have just started season 2.
Perfect.
And I have a very eclectic guest list but talking about the environment, I'm going to pop in there and talk about that even more.
Yeah, well, I will be listening and encourage everybody else to check
I could
out
have you
season
back on
2.
again.
I would welcome that anytime, and open invitation on this show as well. So one of the things I really love about what you're doing, and I think we need more of. So I appreciate your leadership in this. Is this idea of normalizing self-care?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it a little bit about, the society that we live in either, sets you up, pushes you to be very self-centered and goal-oriented. I gotta, get as much money and fame and notoriety and whatever titles, I gotta focus on me and get all of that stuff, focusing on me in kind of a self-centered, not a very helpful way.
Yeah.
Or if you go down the path of, I'm going to work in nonprofit or, some other social justice issue, you're always to be focusing on the other. Like, forget about your own needs, be a pauper, and just spend all of your time giving of yourself to whatever cause you're supporting. To me, neither of those social norms are healthy.
No.
So I appreciate your approach of normalizing self-care. And I think of the idea of, what's the advice we get when we're in an airplane, before it takes off? Like, if we lose cabin pressure and the masks fall down, put your own mask on first before you help the child or the person next to you. It is okay to take care of ourselves. In fact, it's a necessity in order for us to be of better service to other people. And that's what I get out of your show, is that you're normalizing taking care of yourself so that you can be a better human being and help take care of other people. And
It's the
am I
only way.
capturing your show right? It's because that's what I
Yeah.
get out of your show.
Thank you. Yes. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh wow, I guess I'm getting the message across." But that's how I've felt for, gosh, so long, and so much of my life I have gone to complete burnout because that's what we are taught. And I've, going back to Terry Cole, one of my first sessions with her, she said, as I was completely just distraught on her couch, just crying my eyes out and being embarrassed, apologizing for crying, which I thought was, really funny to think about.
Yeah.
Think about now. I mean,
Yeah.
what I was going through, I was so distraught.
Sure.
And she sat there and said, "I need you to be kind to yourself." She says, "This may sound really silly, but I need you to go do something that maybe you wouldn't do. Go buy yourself, like, a tube of lipstick or something." Like, she said it's something like something silly like that, a pair of earrings, whatever it is that go get a massage, which some people think getting a massage is, fluff. I don't need it. But she said, go invest in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go do it tomorrow. Like, this was I remember an evening session, and she said, first thing tomorrow, just go do it. And I really took that advice and did that. And I would, even if I felt a little guilty, because I was like, oh, I don't have the money to do this, or I don't know, all the things that we do in our head.
Sure.
It really started me thinking more about myself instead of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the latter. I don't work for a nonprofit or anything, but I always was giving of everybody else.
Yeah.
And as a mom, I'm really conscious. My kids are watching. They're going to watch if I'm giving to myself and then giving to them. If I'm taking care of myself and then I'm doing both. And we can do both. And that's something that I feel all of those lessons and all that digging and all of those, Love Yourself cards by Louise Hay, and all the things that I do is really going to create a better parent, mother, woman, human in the world. And that ripple effect gives other people permission to do the same. And that's really where I'm coming from. And that is the message of the show, is really learning about other people's stories, and also learning it's okay to talk about vulnerable things. It's okay to talk about your absolute lowest moments.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in it.
Right.
There's no shame in going to a therapist. There's no shame. I still go to a therapist and I love it.
Yeah.
There's no shame in checking in with yourself and therefore being a better human for your partner or your friends, that friend group. How could you be positive if you're not taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've almost 20 years sober. I'm coming up on that in a few months.
Oh, nice.
And recovery has been one of the best things. Well, not one of the best, like the best thing for me. And but it wasn't until I was 12 years sober when I finally started going to a therapist,
Yeah.
and that kicked my sobriety and my recovery into a whole nother area, like a whole nother stratosphere of like, whoa, I thought life was pretty good sober. Now I understand how life can be, as I've learned some of these things about mental health and self-care, and Kristen Neff's research and work around self-compassion. All of this stuff has just made my life better, and I've come to appreciate, and the science proves this, that as you practice self-compassion, you are able to be more compassionate to other people.
Yeah.
And what a gift you're giving the world with your show about, again, we need more people normalizing self-care and the things that you talk about on the show. So I'm really grateful for the work that you do, because I know personally, as I've been able to practice some of the very same things that you talk about on your show, through my experience in therapy and everything, my life has been just made so much better. But I'm also a better public servant. I'm also a better husband. I'm a better friend. I do better work to make the world a better place as I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah.
So I just love what you're doing. And I just want everybody who follows my show, please, please, please go follow Meredith's show as well. Check it out. You are going to love it as much as I do, I'm sure. So.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And I feel the same, about what you're doing in the world. This is the ripple effect that one person can do. And, I talk about that all the time. Some of my idols in the world are Martin Luther King and Gandhi, and, people who had literally one person, and like, how did you do that? How did you affect so many people? And sometimes it's that conviction of, compassion. You were talking about compassion. The more that you do rewire your brain for that, to give yourself that, I'll tell a story of me sitting in traffic, which, there's not a lot of traffic where I live now, which is nice. But I did, I lived in New York for 20 years, in LA,
Los
which
Angeles.
is the worst traffic ever.
Yeah.
But I think about, I still do this, and I really do, even if I get into a place of like, oh my gosh, why did that person honk at me? Or why did they zoom past me so fast?
Yeah.
How dare they, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All the things we think.
Yep.
I immediately go, gosh, I hope they're okay. I hope wherever they're going, that the person they're going to is okay. If I hear an ambulance and it's loud and people are, I got to pull off, I'm first thought now is they're going to help someone. And my kids repeat that back to me. They go, oh, mom, they're going to go help someone. I'm like, yeah, we got to pull over so they can go get to those people.
Yeah.
So that thought process, when you do rewire your brain in that way, you can do that with somebody who might not be so nice. I worked in a lot of service industry positions.
Sure.
As an actress, the whole joke is, oh, actors are waiters and all those things. I was a terrible waitress, but I was a co-check girl. I was a hostess. So I was kind of the person who you would talk to at very high-end hotels. I did Cartier customer service. So people who have a lot of money, who they want it now, and they want to be seated now. And there were a lot of people who were very, very lovely and very nice. Some people who were not so nice. And I would really work on looking at them and going, I hope that they're okay. They may be famous, have a lot of money, and everybody thinks everything's great, but they're coming in and they're not giving me good energy.
Right.
So I'm going to send them good energy, no matter how hateful they may be in this moment. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of translate that to the political climate right now, and people who are going through stuff. There's a lot of division, and whatever side you're on, you may not understand why somebody may be supporting something that you don't support. But it's kind of coming from a place of compassion and curiosity. Why do you think that they are? What's going on? What are people fed up with? I don't know. Like, how can I be a little bit of a light in all this dark?
Yeah.
And, it's going back to the thing I said on the show, Martin Luther King, choose love, because hate is too much of a burden to bear. And it really is. And that's the law of attraction thing I always talk about. If you put more hate out into the world, guess what's going to come back to you?
You're
More
gonna find
hate.
it.
So it's not going to work. It's not going to fix anything.
Yeah.
So putting out love and finding things that people can tangibly do, whether it's self-compassion, compassion for the person who's mad, compassion for people who are leading us maybe, and go like, well, gosh, how angry must this person be? Or how unhappy must they be to say that or do that? I don't know what good it does, but I know that the alternative of being angry is not going to do anything either. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my show.
Yeah, well, it's very clear to me, and I'm a big fan, and I
Thank you.
wish you all the success with season 2 coming up, and however many more seasons ahead, because it's important work that you're doing, and I'm very grateful for it, and I agree with everything you just said. This, what we talked about earlier, the idea of finding things to be grateful for. We're rewiring our brain to look for the good, as opposed to, I think, natural human tendencies, which we all have, is to be aware of the negative, be aware of the bad, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We do that to stay alive, right? Our brains find the danger in everything because it's trying to keep us alive. So I appreciate my brain for always finding, the things that are like maybe unsafe, but that practice that you talked about is where I can also rewire my brain to, when that negative thought pops up, I don't have to follow it. I can, as I do similar things that you talk about in the car, when someone zips by me, my first thought is, we talked on your show about the grumpy old man that's in me. That guy's there. But, having that second immediate thought of, wow, I hope they're okay. I hope wherever they get there safely, that they don't hurt themselves or somebody else driving that crazy or whatever. And that didn't hurt my day to move over 2 seconds and let this person zoom by. Right. I'm still going to get to where I got to get. So that rewiring of your brain is doable, and the exercises and the things that you share with people on your show is how you do it. And I think it's beneficial for everybody. We should all be doing these things.
And going back to what you mentioned, about being sober and rewiring your brain, that act alone, I know I'm going to talk about this on my show a little bit more, because a lot of people are sober curious, especially a lot of young people. That's like a catchphrase that I heard, and I was like, sober curious. Okay. Yeah. But finding a way to, because a lot of times we do, we mask things with alcohol or pills or whatever it is.
Totally.
And we use that to deal.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you peel those layers away, that's when you really get to that self-compassion, get to those moments where you have to rewire your brain, which is possible.
Yeah.
And people don't sometimes think that it is possible. There's so many ways you can rewire your brain, but having that self-compassion every day or in a moment, switching how you think about it, but also being, like if you do have some, problem or you feel with alcohol or pills or masking it in some way with other things.
Yeah.
Being curious about that and starting there and starting small, because listen, I used to roll my eyes when people would be like, oh, you should love yourself. I'm like, okay, whatever. I do. It's fine. Let's just go. Let's continue on.
Sure,
but, so there may be somebody listening who's like rolling their eyes and like, oh gosh, love yourself and self-compassion, and that person's a jerk and blah, 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 blah. But if you start in a small place, you are, let's say, compassionate curious, you're gratitude curious, sober curious. You could do all that.
Yeah.
And just be curious and just try it once, and see how it feels. See how you feel. And that curiosity can lead to just, a better life. I mean, there's nobody that I know that's like gone through all these mental health things and all these things to make your life better, that's like, oh, that was the worst decision I ever made.
Right.
Like nobody says that. So
right.
Just know that if you're in a place where you're like, this is silly, I don't want to do this, just be curious about it and then see where it goes.
Yeah. Super advice. Curiosity is so important. There's a thing in sobriety circles and in terminology and some of the things we use in those kind of sober rooms is you want to avoid contempt prior to investigation. So
yes,
you want to be curious. Don't think that, well, I already know that's awful and I'm not going to do it, or I already know that's stupid and I'm not going to do it. Like, as you just pointed out so wonderfully, be curious and investigate
Be
before you
curious.
pass judgment.
You showed your coffee cup before we were on air.
Yeah.
And your coffee cup says, I know that
I
I know nothing.
know that I know
That I know nothing.
nothing.
And
Yeah.
that's such a great reminder for us to always learn and always be curious and always look and say, I wonder about that, or I wonder about that, or I love learning. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
50 this year.
Woo-hoo.
Woohoo. It's such an exciting next chapter, but
Yeah.
I'm literally going, I'm still learning. There's so many things that I still want to learn, so many things in my industry that I still want to do. There's so many things just in life that I want to learn about. So I learned
Yeah.
so much from you when we got to talk on my show. And that's what I love about my podcast. I really
Yeah.
do. I learn from so many different people, all walks of life. And that is just, that lights me up, and it's exciting. And anyone who listens to my podcast knows that I'm kind of just fearless, and I don't, I kind of walk into it going, I don't know what this is going to be like. Even
Yeah.
with my podcast, I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn. I'm still learning. I'm learning from you with your podcast and so many other people. So that curiosity is that's a great thing to go forward each day with.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, Meredith, you've given a lot of good advice. Be curious, be grateful, and all these wonderful things you've shared today. Thank you so much for your time. I want to give you a moment to do a call to action. Now that people have listened to this or watched this, and hopefully they are curious, or they do want to, like, what do I do now with all of this excitement that I have from this episode? So what do you want people to do? What's your call to action for folks?
Well, I would love for everybody to, come subscribe to my show, and please, DM me. I do get the messages. I do read them. I do try to respond to all of them. And I love that connection. And also know that you are just one person. You can think of it in that way, but you're also one person, like a Gandhi, like a Martin Luther King, who can make a difference and create a ripple effect of good out in the world with what you do. And if there's something that you in your quiet moments think you want to do it. That's my ignorance on fire, going all the way back to me at 18. Just do it. Just jump in. Even if you don't think you know enough, you're not really sure how to, don't worry about the how. Just have the vision and just do it, and don't think it's a bad idea. Don't let all those thoughts in your head go, I don't know, or there's so many people doing a podcast, or so many people that wrote a book, and who cares about my story? All those things came into my head before I did anything. And I said, my rocking chair moment, that's what I talk about a lot on my podcast.
Yeah.
Sitting in my rocking chair in my, later years of life, and thinking back on all the things I didn't do because I was scared, or I worried what other people thought, or whatever. That's the thing. I go, will I regret this if I don't do it?
Yep.
And a lot of the times it's yes. And so I just do it.
Just do it.
And even if I fail, if I fall on my face, I go, I did it. And that's the thing. That's the call to action. I want everybody who's listening to look at their life and go, gosh, there's something that's been gnawing at me forever and I haven't done it. And will I have that rocking chair moment where I will regret it? One of my future episodes is going to be the top 10 regrets of the dying.
Yeah.
And it is really something that I've dug into the past 10 years, because I've lost my own parent and lost some people young in my life. And it just makes me go, wow, you think you have time. That's the thing we think we have, is time.
Yeah.
And you don't know when. So just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Just go for it. So that's my call to action for everybody.
Perfect. Well, and I will add a call to action that when they're doing it, part of what they should do is go to your website, meredithpatterson.com, to check out your podcast and check out your coaching services and your speaking services and everything else that you offer. It's a lovely website, by the way.
Thank you.
But yes, please, I'd love that call to action. That's something that's how we ended up in Seattle. We just did it. That's how this podcast started, because I had the doubts, like, no one's going to care what I have to say. No one, no one's going to come on my show, be a guest. But here we are, and it's working. So
yeah,
I love that advice. Well, Meredith, I got a few minutes with you before we both got to run off. So I want to end the show as I always do with my guests, and I want to talk to you about hope. And hope is this idea that it's not like a little pink fluffy emotion. Hope's actually a mindset. We talked a lot about mindset today, and how we can change our mind into becoming healthier folks. So hope is this idea, as those who study it have defined, has some characteristics. If you're hopeful, you have a vision for the future, a better future for yourself or the situation that you're in. You have some plan of action how to get there. You may not have all the steps. You may not know how you're going to get from A to B, but you have a direction to at least start walking in. And you have a sense of agency that there's something you can do. You might not be able to do it all by yourself, and I would argue that probably can't. We need people, we need community. But the idea of hope is that you have a vision for a better future, some direction to go in, and some agency that you can make a difference. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions about hope, and would encourage you just to give the first answer. Don't think too long about it. And here we go. First question for you, Meredith. What is your hope for a better future? What's your vision for a better future? This could be for yourself, or personally, professionally, or for the world. So what's your vision for a better future?
It's a big question, but I like that question. My vision really and truly is that everybody does what they love in the world, and that that love of them living their best life creates a better community, therefore a better city, therefore a better state, therefore a better country, and then a better world. And I really do think about those people who are out in the world that seem angry, and they have a scowl on their face, and I don't think they're doing what they love. I don't think that they're living their best life. I don't think they're actually digging deep to that reason why they may not feel so great every day, and finding those things that are causing them grief. I really do want everybody to just be curious. It sounds, this is like the Pollyanna part of me. It sounds so silly to say, but I really just want everybody to be happy. I want everyone to be living their best life, whatever that is to them.
Sure.
That could be living in a shack on a mountain with no internet. I don't know. Maybe that's what they want, or, or just traveling the world or whatever it is, but just finding that deep rooted ambition and want, and knowing that it's possible. Because I have had a lot of people, including myself, in moments in my life when people would go, "Oh, you have to have hope. You have to know that it's going to change." And I would roll my eyes and go, "Nope, it's not going to change. This is where I am. I'm stuck. There's no way out of this.
Yeah.
This is awful." Which is why I share the moment that I said of my lowest moment, and thinking, I will never be a mother. No one will ever love me again. I'll never get anything. That's it. Just stay on your bed with your tissues, and that's it. But the hope is that you can always change anything, really, if you dig deep, and it starts with you.
Yeah.
Really.
Perfect. So second question, I think you've already kind of answered a little bit of the second question, but I want to give you an opportunity to add more to it. So why is that your vision for a better future, that everybody kind of digs deep and finds their own personal joy and lives their best life? Like, why is that important to you?
Because I think it just makes, I believe everything is energy. And I really do believe that when you talk about your friends, your friend group, if there was one person in there that was super negative and bringing everybody down, it does affect the whole group. There's actually a study that was done about people who are in a work environment. If there's a negative person and you're trying to work with them for just 30 minutes, it will completely affect your productivity in that group, as opposed to another group of people who had nobody negative and they all just kind of dug in and did it. So I do feel like when everybody is, and this is, of course, such a Pollyanna thing. I don't think everybody in the world is going to get to do what they love. There's a part of me that's like, it's so funny that you think this, but this is my dream. Like, if I had a wish and there was a genie in a bottle, and he said, "What's your wish?" Because it would make everyone's life better. It really would. The energy would go out into the world like a ripple effect. And everyone would just smile and wave at each other. And there would be like, "Oh, if this person had to honk to get by, oh, it's okay. I hope you get where you need to be." Like, no one would be yelling or road rage or whatever it is. Everyone would work together in synergy, and it would be just a wonderful world,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah. So last question. You just kind of said maybe this won't ever happen, but visions are, something that might be unattainable, but they're still worthy for going after.
Yeah.
So imagine then for a moment that your vision of a better future is actually happening right now, that it is everybody is, looking to live their best life in a healthy way, in a helpful way to themselves and to others. That vision is true and it's happening today. How does that
Hmm.
make you feel?
Oh my gosh. Amazing. I just thought about everybody. If everybody was happy, everyone was living their best life, they would, I feel, treat everybody better, treat our environment better, treat our world better. I just actually, because I can see the wilderness in the back of your pictures that you've got. And that's where I live. I live in just this most beautiful place. And I think about everybody, just if everybody did a little thing every day, if they just picked up some trash that they saw, or they just, maybe had a meatless Monday. So there wasn't so, I don't
Yeah.
know, or just treated animals well and people, and we're all in sync.
Yeah.
I would just be this like floating, dancing, doing leaps through nature, happy person. That's how I envision myself
Yeah.
and everybody, which I think would just elevate everyone. It's kind of how I feel about the entertainment industry, which is not promoted, that I want to celebrate everybody because in that celebration, it lifts everyone up.
Yeah.
And then that makes our industry better.
Yeah.
That makes a movie better, a show better, whoever you are, from a star to the ensemble to somebody who's on the crew who maybe is, walked by and people don't see them. If you treat everybody with love and respect and you're happy from it starts, a lot of it starts with you.
Yeah.
Um, it just makes everything better.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Meredith, I'm going to do my part to help your vision come to pass, because I
Awesome.
think it's
Me
a beautiful,
too.
beautiful vision. Thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for sharing your time with me today and your experience and expertise. I'm really grateful to have gotten to know you a little bit here, and extending the invitation to you that you extended to me. If you're ever in the Seattle area, love to meet up for a cup of coffee or something, and I'll definitely let you know if I'm ever out in Montana. But looking forward
I
to
would
staying
love that.
connected and
Yes, I would
watching
love
your show
that.
grow. So I'll leave you with the last word, and then we'll let you get on with your summer day.
I just thank you so much. And I feel the same. And I feel that this world is connections, and it's really, I'm super curious about where a connection could lead, but also just saying yes. There's that Jim Carrey movie, The
Yeah,
Yes Man, I
yeah,
think, and I think
I
about
love
that
that movie.
sometimes, and people say, "Hey, do you want to do this?" or "Hey, do you want to do that?" And I go, "Yeah, you know what? I do. I think that would be great." And it's really, my last word for everybody is going with your gut. Your gut is going to be different than mine in terms of what feels good to you and what you want to do and what you want to explore in the world, and in, making the world a better place, or just your life a better life. And I feel like going with what your instincts are telling you is really important. So trust it. And I say this every time. When I do trust my gut, I really am never wrong with that decision.
Yeah,
When I don't, I regret it.
yeah,
So until that is different, that's the way it's going to be. So
perfect.
that's my last word. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for your time as well.
Well, thank you, Meredith. I wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye bye. I really enjoyed today's conversation with Meredith Patterson. She's a delightful person and an absolute joy to speak with. Meredith's story is deeply honest and inspiring. From her early days as a passionate young performer in California to the dazzling highs of Broadway and the crushing lows of divorce, career challenges, and bankruptcy. But as Meredith shared so beautifully, her transformation didn't come from chasing another award or job title. It came from choosing self-care, practicing radical acceptance, and rewiring her mindset with daily gratitude, therapy, and compassion. As someone who has spent the last few years of my life reframing my own thinking around gratitude and mental health, so much of what Meredith shared really resonated with me, especially her idea that rejection is just redirection. That's a powerful shift in perspective. And her story reminds us that it's never too late to begin again, whether you're rebuilding after loss or rediscovering your purpose. Meredith and I also explored the power of visualization, the importance of listening to your intuition, and the necessity of surrounding yourself with people who uplift and support your growth. And we talked about how being kind to yourself isn't a luxury, it's a requirement if you want to make the world a better place. Look, advancing critical issues like sustainability, climate change, and social justice demands sustained effort and deep emotional engagement. However, the very nature of these challenges, their overwhelming scale, inherent injustices, and the constant exposure to suffering and potential loss, well, all of this can lead to significant emotional distress, including eco-anxiety, climate grief, and compassion fatigue. So, being kind to yourself through self-compassion and intentional self-care is not a luxury, but a fundamental requirement for anyone committed to making a difference. Without it, individuals risk burnout, exhaustion, and a diminished capacity for empathy. Burnout not only harms the individual, but also deprives movements of vital energy, experience, and leadership. By prioritizing self-compassion, you can build resilience, maintain your emotional well-being, and sustain your long-term commitment to issues that matter most to you. This will help ensure that you remain an effective agent of positive change in the world. In essence, taking care of yourself allows you to keep caring for the planet and its people. In this episode, Meredith and I also talked a bit about my own recovery journey and those who might be sober curious, as she put it. If you or a family member are facing a mental health and/or substance use challenge, there is help available. You are not alone. Most communities have services and organizations dedicated to help you with these issues. And if you just don't know where to start, there's a national hotline that provides referrals to local treatment facilities, support groups, and community-based organizations. The helpline is free and confidential, and it's available in English and Spanish 24/7, 365 days a year. So, if you are in need of help for a mental health or substance use problem, please call 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Meredith's work, whether it's her coaching, keynote speaking, or her fantastic podcast, which I encourage you to go check out, head over to her website at meredithpatterson.com. I highly encourage you to follow her, subscribe to her show, and keep up with all the meaningful work she's doing in the world. And after hearing Meredith's story, I hope you feel inspired to take action in your own life and community. That could mean starting your own gratitude practice, checking in on a friend who's struggling, setting boundaries for your own mental wellness, organizing a podcast or a book group to discuss Meredith's Mental Health Monday podcast, or talk about books by Brene Brown or Kristen Neff, or even just taking one brave step towards something that's been calling to you. As Meredith said, don't worry about the how, just take the leap. And if you believe in the mission of Stories Sustain Us, inspiring action through the power of storytelling, I'd love to invite you to visit the support page at storiessustainus.com to learn how you can help the show grow. You can like, share, and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. You can follow us on social media, leave a comment or a review, and if you're able and so inclined, you can even offer financial support to help offset the cost of producing this weekly program. Every bit of support makes a difference. It helps this show reach more people, share more stories, and keep the message going strong. I am so grateful for all the support you've already given. Thank you all for helping to grow Stories Sustain Us. And please be sure to join me again on August 12th for the next episode, where I'll be speaking with another incredible guest about the importance of mental health, kind of making a couple mental health episodes here, almost like a little mini mental health series. My next guest is the director of statewide training at the Mental Health Empowerment Project in New York, where he leads transformative learning spaces that empower people to recognize their voice, power, and potential. His work is grounded in authentic peer support and built on the belief that healing happens through connection and shared experience. He is also a passionate advocate for mental health expression through the arts. You're not going to want to miss this inspiring conversation. You can catch the next episode of Stories Sustain Us on August 12th at storiessustainus.com, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube. Thank you for being here today. Keep caring and keep doing your part to make the world a better place. Till next time, I'm Steven Schauer. Please take care of yourself and each other. Take care.